Everyone thought Easter Island statues were just mysterious heads until archaeologists uncovered full stone bodies, hidden ritual pigments, and sealed burial chambers beneath the earth. The disturbing truth beneath Easter Island challenges everything we thought we knew about Rapa Nui's lost civilization. But how deep does this hidden world go, and what secrets still remain buried? At the base of Rano Raraku, shovels cut through layers of volcanic soil, revealing what earlier explorers never imagined. Dr. Joe Ann Van Tilburg, leading a team of archaeologists, watched as the earth gave way to massive torsos buried several meters deep. For generations, only the stone heads had been visible, their blank faces peering out from the hillside. But as excavations progressed, full bodies emerged, some towering nearly 30 feet from head to base. Arms, hands, and elongated torsos appeared, their surfaces marked with intricate carvings and symbols untouched by centuries of wind and rain. The buried portions preserved details lost on the exposed heads. Delicate petroglyphs, loincloths, and incised motifs, each hinting at a complex social language. Tool marks along the statue flanks and bases told a silent story of skilled artisans shaping volcanic tuff with basalt picks. Soil analysis and stratigraphic records confirmed that these statues had stood upright before being gradually engulfed by sediment and time. The discovery upended the old myth of isolated heads, revealing instead a feat of engineering and artistry that demanded organized labor and deep cultural purpose. Each unearthed statue became tangible proof that Rapa Nui's builders were not simply survivors, but master craftsmen shaping monuments for reasons still being deciphered. Across the island, the moai do not face the sea. Each statue turns its gaze inward, overlooking the land and the settlements that once thrived there. This deliberate orientation forms a silent network of ancestral guardianship, mapping the island's social and spiritual landscape in stone. The arrangement of statues is not random. Their placement on ceremonial platforms, ahu, traces the boundaries and hierarchies of Rapa Nui's clans. Atop many moai rest massive red stone top knots known as pukao, carved from scoria quarried at Punapau. Only certain statues receive these, marking individuals of high status and spiritual authority. In 2011, archaeologists uncovered storage pits near the quarries, packed with hematite-rich red pigment. The sheer volume of raw ochre points to a large-scale production network, supporting not just statue ornamentation, but also ritual ceremonies and body paint. In Polynesian belief, red symbolized mana, a force of spiritual power that animated both people and monuments. Beneath the Aichu, excavations revealed carefully engineered burial chambers. Built with dry-laid stone, these tombs were designed to withstand earthquakes and floods, demonstrating both technical skill and reverence for the dead. High-ranking priests, artisans, and leaders were interred within, their resting places shielded by the very platforms that anchored the moai. The entire landscape, statues, pigment, tombs, speaks to a society that encoded its power, memory, and faith into the island's bedrock. In 1978, archaeologist Sergio Rapu uncovered fragments of white coral and obsidian near the Aichu at Anakena, pieces that would reshape the understanding of the moai. These were not random debris, they were the remnants of the statue's eyes. Traditionally, after a moai was raised onto its platform, artisans carved sockets and carefully fitted insets of gleaming white coral, each with a dark obsidian or red scoria pupil. The installation of the eyes marked the final stage of the ritual, transforming the statue from inert stone into a living ancestor. Oral traditions recall processions and chants as priests and clan leaders gathered, reciting genealogies and invoking ancestral mana. The moment the eyes were set, the moai's gaze became active, believed to watch over the land and its people, channeling spiritual power across the island. This act was not just symbolic, it was the heart of Rapa Nui belief. The instant when ancestors awoke and memory became presence, their watchful eyes bridging the world of the living and the dead. When the ships anchored off Rapa Nui in the 18th and 19th centuries, the island's silence deepened. Genetic studies of ancient remains reveal that, for centuries, the population held steady, families tracing their roots back through generations, their traditions intact. But after 1722, the arrival of outsiders brought a wave of devastation. Slave raids in the 1860s and new diseases swept through the community, shrinking the population from thousands to just 111 survivors by 1877. The sudden loss left unfinished moai, scattered at the quarries, and tools abandoned mid-carving, as if the island's heartbeat had stopped overnight. Yet beneath the surface, the story continued. DNA evidence shows no trace of the Civil War or cannibalism once blamed for the collapse. Instead, the true catastrophe came from beyond the horizon. Today, archaeologists use ground-penetrating radar to search for what was left behind. More than 150 partially buried statues have been mapped, and remote sensing hints at dozens of hidden structures still waiting to be uncovered. Each new scan offers hope that the silence will yield more answers, proof that Rapa Nui's story did not end, but waits to be told anew. By 2011, archaeologists had excavated over 150 partially buried moai, revealing that these statues were never just heads, but entire bodies marked with intricate carvings and evidence of skilled engineering. DNA analysis confirms Rapa Nui's population remained stable until the 18th century, when European contact and slave raids triggered a catastrophic decline, reducing the island's people to just 111 survivors by 1877. Despite these findings, questions remain. Hundreds of statues still lie unexcavated, and the full meaning of the island's glyphs, including the lost Rongorongo script, is yet to be decoded. Across ancient Mesopotamian palaces, 12,000-year-old Turkish temples, and lost Olmec capitals, the same puzzling image appears: a small secretive handbag held by gods and guardians. Scholars call it ritual, others claim hidden technology or lost origins, but what these handbags of the gods contained remains undiscovered, even as their mystery could rewrite what we think we know about civilization itself. So why did distant cultures carve the same sacred bag? And what was so important it had to be locked away in stone? In the heart of ancient Assyria, monumental palaces at Nimrud, Nineveh, and Khorsabad displayed a striking visual code. Across gypsum wall panels dating from the 9th to 7th centuries BCE, a single motif repeats with unwavering precision: a rectangular vessel with an arched handle, always gripped by winged figures known as Apkallu. These reliefs stretch for meters along throne room corridors and ceremonial gateways, carved with such consistency that the motif's outline is instantly recognizable from slab to slab. The figures stand poised, one hand clutching the so-called handbag, the other a pine or palm cone, their forms rendered in crisp, shallow cuts that still bear traces of ancient pigment. No matter the palace or the king, Ashurnasirpal at Nimrud, Sargon at Khorsabad, the handbag appears unchanged, as if bound by a rule older than the empire itself. Its presence is never casual, always deliberate, always paired with the guardians of wisdom and order, always at the center of the royal world. Assyriologists identify the so-called handbag as the bandudu, a ritual bucket, paired with the mulilu, a cone held in the opposite hand. In palace reliefs from Nimrud and Nineveh, these implements appear in the hands of Apkallu during acts of purification. Cuneiform texts describe the bandudu filled with consecrated water, while the mulilu serves as a sprinkler, flicking droplets over people, objects, or temple thresholds. This gesture, repeated across royal monuments, was not decorative, but central to rites invoking the power of Ea, also known as Enki, the god of water and wisdom. The ritual act signified more than cleanliness. It was a performance of cosmic renewal, believed to maintain the balance between the divine and the earthly. Museum collections display stone and ceramic vessels labeled as bandudu, but the carved form in reliefs is more stylized, always tied to the visual language of authority and sacred protection. No museum or archaeological site has ever produced a vessel that matches the carved form of the so-called bandudu. Excavated ritual buckets from Nimrud, Nineveh, and other temples come in stone, ceramic, or bronze, often round, sometimes oval, never with the sharp corners and upright handle seen in palace reliefs. Catalogs at the British Museum and Iraq Museum list dozens of containers labeled as ritual implements, but none possess the distinctive silhouette carved so precisely into gypsum panels. Even the best candidates, stone pails with looped handles, fall short, lacking the flat base and rigid symmetry that define the icon. Curators and archaeologists alike note this absence in their reports, calling attention to a gap between what is depicted and what has been found. The carved motif remains an idealized image, its physical counterpart missing from the record. This unresolved question pushes the search beyond Mesopotamia, inviting comparisons with distant cultures and unexplained parallels yet to be uncovered. On the Gulf Coast of Mexico, nearly 3,000 miles from Assyria, a single carved stone stands at La Venta. Monument 19, dating between 900 and 400 BCE, shows an Olmec figure holding a rectangular object with a curved handle, its outline echoing the Mesopotamian motif, yet cut into a world with no written link to the east. The figure is entwined with the earliest known feathered serpent, a symbol that would later shape the myths of Mesoamerica. For Mesoamericanists, this pairing, handbag and serpent, signals royal power and access to hidden knowledge. The resemblance is uncanny, but no evidence connects these cultures. Instead, the La Venta carving hints at a pattern. Distant peoples, separated by oceans and centuries, turn to the same mysterious form to express the sacred and the unknown. 12,000 years ago, on a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, builders at Göbekli Tepe carved 3 rectangles with arched tops into the face of Pillar 43. These shapes, dating to approximately 9,600 BCE, stand as some of the oldest known symbols of their kind, etched long before the rise of cities, farming, or writing. Unlike later examples, the rectangles here are not held by figures or shown in ritual scenes. Instead, they float above a crowded tableau of animals, their meaning undeciphered. Archaeologists note the absence of woven patterns or handles, features common in later depictions. The motif appears only on a handful of pillars at the site, with no matching objects recovered from the soil. For researchers, these ancient carvings push the timeline of the motif thousands of years deeper into the past, inviting questions that no inscription or artifact has yet answered. From museum halls to online feeds, the handbag motif has become a canvas for competing ideas. Cognitive archaeologists point to the vessel as a universal symbol, the sacred container, echoing the human mind's search for meaning in objects that hold, protect, or transmit. Jung's archetype of the vessel appears in myths from every continent, suggesting that the motif may arise wherever people imagine the source of life or wisdom. Yet speculative claims, ranging from ancient technology to lost civilizations, spread rapidly across social media, amplified by viral videos and algorithm-driven curiosity. The debate now plays out not just in academic journals, but in comment sections, where evidence, theory, and imagination collide, and where the handbag's mystery grows with every share. Across 3 continents and over 10,000 years, the handbag motif appears in stone. From the palace walls of Nimrud, dating to 2500 BCE, to the pillars of Göbekli Tepe, carved around 9600 BCE. Scholars widely agree these images in Mesopotamia represent the Bondudu, a ritual purification bucket described in cuneiform texts and royal records. Yet, no artifact matching these carved forms has ever been found. When the same shape turns up at La Venta in Mexico, dated between 900 and 400 BCE, the mystery deepens. Despite decades of excavation and analysis, there's still no single explanation for why such similar symbols appear in places with no known contact. Today, this ancient motif continues to fuel debate, research, and even online speculation. What remains clear is that the so-called handbags of the gods challenge our assumptions about cultural connection and the ways symbols persist. The unanswered question is not only what was inside, but what these images meant to those who carved them, and why their legacy endures.